This time I would like to call the KCK Board of Public Utilities meeting for June the 5th to order. We'd like to welcome all who are listening or viewing this meeting of the Kansas City Board of Public Utilities, whether in person or through technology. This meeting is being recorded, both video and audio. During the visitors' comment section of the agenda, community members who wish to speak to the board will be asked to provide their name and address and will then have 3 minutes to speak. Members of the public using Zoom that wish to address the board need to use the raise hand feature at the bottom of the application or window to signal that they wish to address the board during the visitor comment section. In addition, there will be a public comment section after the general manager's staff reports. During this section, the public may comment on the evening's presentations, agenda items. Members of the public connected by phone only need to press *9 to indicate that they wish to address the board in the visitors' comment section. Those attending in person should sign up at the sign-up sheet located near the door. Comments are limited to 3 minutes and should be directed to the board. As these comments are public, the board cautions visitors to not discuss confidential account information or information on an account that is not in their name. Staff will not provide individual account information or history in an open meeting. As always, the public may email or call the BPU with any concerns. The agenda and presentations may be found on the BPU website, or if you're using Zoom, they will appear on your screen. As a reminder, this is a business meeting of the Board of Directors, and we will conduct the meeting accordingly. The following rules apply to this meeting. Every person in the room will act respectfully towards each other. Personal attacks and accusations toward any person will not be tolerated. State your specific issue to the board, and we will then determine staff's involvement. Attendees shall refrain from side discussions or individual commentary that interferes with speakers or other attendees at this meeting. If side discussion is necessary, please take it outside of the boardroom. If any of the rules above are breached during the meeting, that individual is subject to removal from the boardroom. My name is Tom Groneman, 2nd District and Board President. Other members of the board and staff include Bill Johnson, General Manager, David Haley, a member at large, position number 2, and Board Vice President, Stevie Wakes, 1st District and Board Secretary, Brett Parker, 3rd District, Mary Gonzalez, member at large, position 1, Rose Mulvaney Henry, member at large, position number 3, and Angela Lawson, acting Chief Counsel. As a reminder, please put your phones on silent. Please also be aware that the microphones are very sensitive and can pick up and record comments being made anywhere in the room. Before we begin the meeting, please rise and join me in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, Angela, please.
Roll call. Gonzalez.
Here.
Groneman.
Here.
Haley.
Present.
Wakes.
Here.
Mulvaney Henry.
Here.
Parker.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Before I ask for a motion to approve the agenda for this evening's meeting, are there any additions, corrections, subtractions?
I move to approve the agenda.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve the agenda. Roll call, please.
Roll call. Gonzalez.
Aye.
Groneman.
Aye.
Haley.
Aye.
Wakes.
Aye.
Mulvaney Henry.
Aye.
Parker.
Aye.
That motion carries.
Before I ask for a motion to approve the minutes of the work session of May 15th, are there any additions or corrections to the minutes?
I move to approve the minutes of the work session of May 15, 2024.
Second.
Okay, roll call, please.
Roll call. Gonzalez.
Aye.
Groneman.
Aye.
Haley.
Aye.
Wakes.
Aye.
Mulvaney Henry.
Aye.
Parker.
Aye.
That motion carries.
Okay, before I ask for a motion to approve the minutes of the regular session of May 15th, 2024, are there any additions or corrections?
Move to approve the minutes of the regular session of May 15, 2024.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Roll call Gonzalez,
Aye.
Groneman,
Aye.
Haley,
Aye.
Wakes,
Aye.
Mulvaney Henry,
Aye.
Parker.
Aye.
That motion carries.
This time I'll turn the meeting over to Johnson,
Thank
General
you.
Manager.
Thank you, Mr. President. Chris, is there anyone? Nope. Rob, is there anyone online waiting to speak?
Yes, sir. No hands are raised.
All right, thank you. Thank you. Next on the General Manager Staff Report section of the agenda, I'll ask Lori to come up, present April 24 financials. She'll also be asking for approval of the previously presented financials.
Good evening.
Good evening.
We'll go over, you had to do something. We'll go over April 2024 financials. Start out with looking at our billed electric usage, KWH. Overall, in comparison to 2023, we're down about 2%. Our residential and industrial are down in comparison to 2023. Our commercial is very comparable to where we were last year. So residential and industrial are down both at 4%, and our commercial is down less than 0.5%. On the water side, looking at CCFs, water usage is up overall compared to 23 by 2.8%. We're seeing residential and industrial up slightly. We are showing pretty consistent increase in usage on the commercial side. So commercial's up 8%, while residential and industrial are up about 0.5%. For revenues, just for the month of April, we're down in comparison to 23 by overall about 6%. And then from a budget to actual perspective, we're down about 10.5%. Electric's down 12%, or about 2.7 million, while water's down 3%, or about 123,000. And we're down overall about 2.9 million. So our largest variance there is residential, which is down about 2.2 million. Overall, our ERC is lower than where we were last year at this time. So I think that has a little bit to do with it. Also, I believe it's more weather related. So, you know, our months have been pretty, I'm not going to say hot, but warm. So we kind of didn't get our good cold spell. You know, this is March usage. So I believe March was a little bit warmer than in previous year. Looking at revenues from a year-to-date perspective, down slightly from 23, about 1.7%. And then year-to-date from budget, we're down about 1.7%. So overall, down about 2 million. On a combined basis, 2 million in electric, and we're up slightly about 12,000 on the water side. So some of the variances there are residential on the electric side down 2%. Residential's down about 2.6 million. Commercial's up about 1 million, and then our industrial's down about 1.3. We are seeing our wholesale sales down about 2.4 million as well. Water's up slightly less than 1%. Still down in residential about 230,000. Commercial's up about 390, and industrial is slightly up. And then our wholesale is down about 100,000. We've recognized 4 months of our 6 on the 2023 over recovery of the ERC. So that represents about 2.7 million that we've recognized. Looking at operating expenses for the month of April, we're down in comparison to 23 by 0.2%. So very comparable. Overall, month budget to actual. Expenses are up about 20%. That's about 4.5 million on the electric side that we're up, and we're down about 1.4 million on the water side. On the water side, all the expenses are below projected for the month. Electric, some of our variances there, our production expenses are up for the month by about 450,000. Our purchase power was up 3.2 million and our fuel was up about 800,000. So overall, our fuel and purchase power, 4.1 million of that is from fuel and purchase power. Looking at our year-to-date expenses, we're about 1% above 2023 levels, translates to about 900,000. We're about 6.7% above budget, actual to budget. So electric's up about 7.4 million, while water's down about 1.4 million, so 6 million combined. That's about 10% on the electric side above, water's down 10%. Looking at our expenses less depreciation, very comparable to 2023, less than 1% compared to budget. We're about 7.3% higher in expenses. 7 million on the electric side above, while water's down about 1.4, so a net of about 5.5 million. Some of our variances, our purchase power is above budget by about 8.9 million. Our fuel's about 850,000 above. Production's below year to date, about 230, while T&D is down about 770. And then our G&A is down about 1.7 million. On the water side, all of our expense categories are down below budget, with production about 400,000, T&D about 550,000, and G&A is about 470,000. So we have for the month of April, we have a change in net position of a negative 3.3 million. We projected to be at a positive 3.3 million. Electric is below budget. We projected to be about 2.8 million positive, and we're 4.4 million negative, while water is 1.1 positive. We're expected to be about 500,000 positive. For year to date, we're at a positive 5.3 million positive. That's about 11.5 to budget. So we're about 5.3 million below budget. Electric is about 1.2 million down, while water is 4.1 million above projected. Looking at our 10-year trend, just looking at 2023, so we had expenses about 100, or revenue of 102 million, while expenses about 98.3. So our net, where we were last year at this time, was 3.7 million positive. And then for 24, our revenue is about 9.8, almost 99 million, while expenses about 97. So we're at a positive 1.2 year to date. On the water side, we had a net of about 1.7 million in 2023, and in 2024, so we're netting about overall expenses about 2.8. Water also has some developer contributions to count to the bottom line. So overall, they're a positive 4.1 million. Looking at our collections, my colors look different. So these are our average daily collections. So we averaged about 1.6, almost 1.7 million for the month of April. As you can see throughout those first 4 months. Pretty consistent, especially in the last couple months. We've been about 1.6, 1.7 million. And as I stated, our collections are a little bit probably lower than where they were last year at this time because of the ERC and also weather-related impact. Overall, we lost about 1.1 million for the month of April. In comparison to previous years, whatever, it's a little bit less than what we had in the past. So, that's positive. So we're still in our shoulder months. We have a few more months before, we start, generating a little bit more, as we get into our summer revenue. So, we just put in our summer rates, so those will start, being billed here in June. Looking at our cash position, so we're at 81 days for the month of April. March, we were about 83 days and about 62 days a year ago. Looking at our fuel inventory, so we're almost about 14 million in fuel. We had about 11.2 last year at this time. So we have about 103 days of fuel on the ground. This is just a depiction, historical projection of our days, or actual of our days cash on hand. As I stated, we're about 81 days. Looking at our capital spend, so far we've spent 11 million compared to where we were last year at this time, about 10.3 million. So we have a total budget about 67 million. We have about 84% remaining. Some of our categories there, so the annual overhead construction and underground construction, it's around 900,000 we spent so far. Our distribution pole inspection is about 900,000. We've purchased some underground transformers, which is around 900,000. And then we've been working on 98th Street overhead feeder relocation. That's about 600,000. On the water side, overall water distribution is around 2 million, and then water production is doing some capital work about close to 300,000. Then our debt coverage, top section there is with Pilot, so we're at a combined 2.63. Electric's at 2.45 times, while water's at 2.86 times. And then we have our debt coverage without Pilot, combined basis, we're at a 1.91 with 1.74 on the electric side and 2.25 on the water side. Any questions?
So when you talk about fuel costs, you're primarily talking about coal?
Coal that's on the ground. Yeah, when we look at our inventory,
Okay.
yeah,
Thank you.
that's the
Thank you.
coal that's on the ground.
Thank you.
So we're out of the preliminary stage, so if I could ask for approval.
I
As-
so move.
Rose, I second.
Okay, roll call, please.
Roll call, Gonzalez,
Aye.
Groneman,
Aye.
Haley.
Aye.
Wakes,
Aye.
Mulvaney Henry,
Aye.
Parker.
Aye.
That motion carries.
The approval for the previous years, do you need those year by our?
Angela, can I do it all at once, all grouped at once?
Yes, with the reminder that your vote would then be the same on all.
So
Then I can rescind my motion to them to include all years.
You
So
would make
I'm
a
gonna
Okay,
tell
okay,
you what
okay.
months and
Okay.
quarters
Okay.
that we've taken out a preliminary made to final, which is not, I mean, April is a separate, I think. Is that correct, Angela? Since we voted on April already, we
Yes.
don't need to vote on that again.
Correct.
So I think I sent to you. We have monthly financials for December of 2023, January of 2024, 2024, February and March of 2024. We also have the fourth quarter of 2023 and the first quarter of 2024 that we presented previously
And they were presented to us at the last meeting. But
during
during
the year.
during the
Yeah,
last-
yeah.
Okay, so I entertain a motion that we accept or approve all reports from the fourth quarter of 2023 and the first quarter of 2024. Was that
And
included?
December, January, February, and March.
Okay, January, February, and March. Okay, so that's the, to say the
I mean, December is in the fourth quarter,
Okay.
March is in the
first quarter.
first quarter.
Right.
So
Okay, so
really January and February.
I so move.
A second?
Okay, roll call, please.
Roll call, Gonzalez,
Aye.
Groneman,
Aye.
Haley.
Aye.
Wakes,
Aye.
Mulvaney Henry,
Aye.
Parker.
Aye.
That motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Laurie. Next, I'll ask Darren McNew to come up. Jeremy, is there anything you want to say in addition before Darren speaks?
No.
Okay. Okay. So the board knows we've gone through certainly several storm events and but it's also impacted others in the area as well. So I think it'd be timely to go through kind of where we are 2024, hoping for better days and weeks and months to come.
Sure. So we're going to talk about a couple of the storms we just had, like Bill said, and then go through our kind of storm restoration procedure, our priorities during that, how we work those outages, and talk about some of the enhancements we made since last year along the way. It'll look pretty similar to the presentation I did after the storm, the big storms last July, for those of you that have seen that. Next slide, please. So again, we had two storms kind of back to back, not quite a week apart, on May 19th and May 25th. And obviously we had, some of our customers out of power for extended period of time, up to, several days, depending on where you were at. The May 19th storm was the biggest, affecting about 12,000 customers, electric customers at peak. For comparison, the large storm we had last July was about 38,000 customers at peak. So storms, quite a bit smaller, but still took us a lot of time to work through based on the kind of damage we saw, which I'll talk more about, and you'll have some pictures. Next slide, please. So this is a map I put together a little bit different than what you saw last time of our outage map. I'm sure probably a lot of you watch that outage map when we have these storms going on, like the rest of us do. But what this is from our GIS mapping system. And I thought this was probably a better representation of seeing exactly where the damage was and the kind of work we did. So every point represents a work order for us. That's the point where we dispatched a crew or a troubleshooter or somebody to make some repair. And you kind of see the legend over there. So we've noted if it was a fuse, a transformer, wire, down to, street lights taken down by the storm. You see a lot of W's on there. So a lot of wires taken down. And that was primarily because we had a lot of, large trees, large branches, things coming down and pulling wire and poles down. So that was the big thing. And, so this is something we're doing different now that we hadn't done in the past. And, besides kind of letting us, assess the damage, what kind of damage it was, what we were doing and where it was at. We have storms of this size. We typically, depending on the size of the storm and the kind of damage, we apply for reimbursement through FEMA, which, we've done several times. This storm looks like it's going to be another FEMA reimbursable storm, which is great that we're able to recover those costs. But to do that, it's a pretty extensive paperwork process. We have to account for every single man hour, both our crews and external crews that we put towards the storm, every piece of material, pole, wire, whatever, that we are charging to that storm has to be accounted for. We have to know what went out and where it went. And so having this map is a big help with organizing all that. Because again, it's a massive undertaking. It takes a lot of time. With our GIS system, we're capturing all of our work orders and made it more automated. And then we're able to attach pictures and all kinds of information into this system and pull all that up. So it really helps us out with getting organized for our FEMA claims. You know, and so, yeah, the last thing I want to mention on this one, I guess, so looking at that, it looks maybe kind of fairly spread out across the county, but on the next slide there, Rob, when you zoom in on the eastern part of the county there, you see a pretty defined line of a lot of damage through that area. You know, obviously no tornado touched down in Wyandotte County, but that looks an awful like what was probably a tornado, you know, pretty severe storm cell right there, and just a lot of really concentrated damage, a lot of, you know, severe damage. It took a lot of time to work through. I mean, if any of you went out and saw it, and I do have just a few pictures, but you know, the kind of damage that some of these areas sustained was really, really extreme. Next slide, please. So this is from, you know, the May 25th storm that was right after, you know, a much smaller storm. You can kind of see distribution of those work orders is pretty similar. Again, a lot of wires. Usually what happens with this, the same thing that happened last year, we had those two storms back to back. You have a pretty severe storm come in with a lot of wind and a lot of trees come down, limbs come down, maybe even some poles break. But there's a lot of things that just don't quite break. They hold on just a little bit. And so the very next storm comes through and all those limbs and trees and things just barely holding on, you know, they break at that second storm. So pretty similar in the same areas we saw hard hit by the first storm, you know, just a lot of things that were barely hanging on that finally gave way in the second storm. So next slide. So this is just kind of an overview of our system restoration procedure. And this is available on the website, this infographic. So just kind of talking about, you know, in general terms, when we have a significant weather event, how we work through that. So, you know, first off, you can kind of see where our generating facilities, our transmission lines and our substations. So those things are all kind of our, you know, our backbone of the whole electrical system. So if we have issues there, you know, it could be pretty widespread. So we start there and we prioritize our you know, plants, our transmission system and our substations. Fortunately, these storms, we really didn't have any transmission or substation issues other than a little bit of lightning. So we were pretty lucky there. But beyond that, you know, we start working down, kind of trying to focus on getting the largest number of customers online through this whole process as we can. So we start out with our main distribution lines, our distribution feeders, we call them. You know, when those are open, that whole circuit is locked out. It's typically a very, you know, wide area outage affecting, you know, maybe upwards of 1,000 to 1,500 people, depending on what circuit it is. So we start working those, and then we move down, kind of looking at what I'll call, I guess, priority or critical facilities, which I've got some more information on the next slide, but things like hospitals, you know, water facilities, wastewater, police station, things like that. So we're trying to prioritize getting those back online. So we've got power for, you know, again, medical facilities, our public service, and our water, making sure all infrastructure is in place. Beyond that, we start working on, you know, neighborhoods or areas out where, you know, we've got those main feeders on. So we start going out to those larger areas and working through those. Trying to get those restored and kind of working through that list. And, you know, that's where we really spend the longest amount of time is in this phase, because you're working in a lot of different areas. And then at the end, we're talking about, you know, individual homes. You know, someone maybe has their house service damaged by the storm. And unfortunately, it's those, you know, individual homes that are the last thing we get to, because we're trying to get, again, the biggest number of customers on at a time as we can and work down. So, you know, I know that's something that always comes up and people ask, and people want to know that there's trucks driving by, but my lights are still off. And so, you know, we're working in areas we might be, you know, we haven't forgot about you. We know, but we're trying to work these big areas. We might be trying to get, again, like a priority facility online. You know, sometimes it's even things like we may need to get tree crews there to do work, or, you know, maybe we can do some temporary repairs to get part of this area on, but we have to come back and spend a lot of time doing some more significant areas to get everybody on. So just kind of an overview there of how we work through things.
Darren, can I ask you a question on
Yeah,
that?
absolutely.
This protocol that BPU uses,
Mhm.
if we looked at probably every single other power company in the country, this is the protocol that we're all using, right?
Yeah, that's pretty standard. I've never seen anything different. So, but, you know, like I said, you get in these storms and you get in a lot of different specifics, but this is the general overview of the process. So it's good it's out there kind of for information for all of our customers. So you kind of, you know, obviously people are without power for several days and it's frustrating and they want to know what's happening. And, you know, this is what we're doing. We are working, but we're trying to work through it in an organized manner. You know, and like I said, work the larger areas down to the smaller. But yeah, that's pretty
I mean, it's
standard
pretty
for anybody.
methodical.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you.
So again, this is, you know, talking about the priorities. So like I said, hospital, medical facilities, water, wastewater, public safety, police, fire, any kind of emergency shelters where people can, you know, go if their power is out. You know, any nursing homes, assisted living facilities, or individual customers that may have like medical devices or medical issues. And then of course, wire down reports, and emergency calls. You know, we get a call of a power line on the ground or, you know, a fire or some kind of emergency, and we have to prioritize that since there's a safety risk there. You know, and these aren't in any particular order, right? These are just how we just, you know, some of the priorities that we're trying to manage as we're trying to get lights back on. So the point of this slide is to kind of talk about, you know, we get a lot of people involved in the storm response. Obviously, you see the line crews out there working, but the flow kind of starts at our ESDC, the Electric Service Dispatch Center. We also call it the trouble board, but that is where all the they're monitoring our outage management system, monitoring the system, you know, getting the outage notifications. They're taking calls from customers. They're dispatching our troubleshooters, which is a single lineman in a truck. They're the first ones out there to, you know, assess what's going on and try and get lights back on if they can, or make some temporary repairs to get at least part of the people back on, and then report back if we need to dispatch a crew. You know, and then our superintendents, we have 4 electric distribution superintendents, and they actually share a rotating duty cycle. So 1 week of the month, you know, they'll be on duty and responsible for all outages. But you know, what's nice, those guys, I mean, they're only responsible for 1 week of the month, but when you have something like this, you don't even have to call anybody. They show up. They're all there. They're all working together. A lot of crowd relation, you know, that's Mike Fergus's team, and he's in there with them, and they're all kind of spearheading our efforts and working on getting, you know, those big areas, those feeders on first, and then working out through and managing the crews. And you know, we've actually, you know, one of the enhancements we've done since the storms last year is kind of improve our workflow process. So, you know, we work through that procedure I showed you. Once we get down to those neighborhood and area outs, we kind of start sectionalizing the county and assigning superintendents with dedicated crews and resources and troubleshooters, and letting them work area by area, you know, which is only possible since they're all kind of pitching in, and that lets us kind of work through more methodically once we get down to those big areas. And then of course our line crews, you know, all those people, the trouble clerks, troubleshooters, superintendents, and line crews, they're all working, you know, at least 16-hour days every day until the lights are back on. So they're all working as hard as they can. You know, and another thing that's really great with our line crews, we had a similar experience last year, but you know, we did not have any injuries or safety incidences. I mean, obviously these storms are really the most dangerous time for the guys to be out there. And again, they're working 16-hour days, working long days. People are tired and exhausted, but no incidences. Everybody did a great job, I think, which really speaks to, you know, the safety culture and how things are there, which is phenomenal. And then of course, you know, our metering group, our carpenters, our traffic signal for issues, our substation linemen they fold over in to work with the regular distribution line crews. You know, and then we of course have our storeroom group, which actually reports under Lori. You know, we have a pretty big warehouse there at the service center. Some of you have seen, and the people that man that are actually in the purchasing group, but they're there, you know, making sure our guys have material, delivering material to the job site. making sure the guys have what they need to do the job. The fleet maintenance group, we have mechanics and service people on standby. So if, you know, these trucks break while we're using them all day and use them hard, they're there to repair them and get them going again, keep the guys working. We also bring our, you know, engineers and mappers in to help run tickets. So they're going out and running tickets to kind of assess damage, you know, note what needs to be done. If we need a tree crew here first, what material the guys need to bring to the job site and kind of get, you know, get all that stuff figured out ahead of time. So we're out surveying so that when our crews get there, they know what they need to do. And also, like I said, checking those wire down calls. That's something we have a ton of. A lot of times it ends up being, you know, cable TV or phone or telecom, but people calling these wire down, and we have to check every single one to make sure there's no safety issue. And then one more thing on that, Rob. And then our GIS group and our claims coordinator and office records. So I showed you that GIS map that group put together. And so we, you know, we bring them, our claims coordinator and our clerical staff and office records in as well. And that way they're collecting data from the onset. They're getting pictures, you know, preparing those maps, working through the timesheets. And we've got a jump start on getting everything ready for the FEMA claim I talked about, which is, again, a pretty involved process. And then, of course, it's not just us, you know, Energy Control Center, Jaren's group is helping us out. They're helping tracking what feeders are open with us. We're calling in for safety clearances there. They're always supporting us. Nick, our communications coordinator, you know, we're talking, he's relaying information out to the public. He's also passing along, you know, any outage reports or issues that come his way. So he's helping, he's involved, he's out getting pictures with the guys in the field. And then, of course, you know, Janetta and Gabby's group there in customer service, they're fielding a lot of calls. People are, you know, calling every number they can, trying to get information. So they're helping out as well. So a lot of people involved in that when something of this size happens. Next slide. So we did have, you know, mutual aid. We use the Kansas Municipal Utility Mutual Aid Program, and McPherson Board of Public Utilities sent a 5-man bucket crew, and City of Ottawa, Kansas sent a 2-man bucket crew. So those guys did come up and were a huge help, did a great job, and helped us out during the storm. You know, our Capital Electric crews, whenever we have this, we call on all of them to start doing storm work and devote every resource to that. Last year, we actually had called in some additional capital crews from outside of town because we had just, again, 38,000 people and so much work. This time we did not. We used all of the crews we have working here, you know, normally. And then our 2 tree crews, Asplin and Wright. Those are the 2 crews that do, you know, all of our tree trimming services. Last time, this is another thing we identified during the last storm. Last time we only had the contract language in the Asplin contract to allow them to come in on a time material basis and help out with storm. So we, you know, had our crews, we pulled extra crews, but when these things happen, obviously, typically Evergy gets, you know, hit as hard as us or harder. And so they're trying to get crews, we're trying to get crews, and there's always a shortage of people. So we redid the contracts. Scott Paulson worked with the purchasing group and Kurt Hafner and redid those contracts. So now we have that language in Wright's contract as well. And we're able to call both those companies and have more tree crews available. So it'll help us out with resources because, yeah, I mean, you'll see we always have a ton of tree work in this. And so as many of those crews we can get is better. And then these are just some pictures of storm damage. Again, you can kind of see here a lot of trees down, huge 100-foot tall trees, and they took poles and wire with them. You know, we have I think a really great vegetation management program that I think I would put up against anybody's. I reported to you last year that we were down, I think, 77% on tree related outages since 2017, which I think is phenomenal. But, you know, we can only clear so far when you have, you know, these huge limbs or these 100-foot trees come down. I mean, we can't cut down every tree in a 100-foot radius. So there's only so much we can do. And when you have a storm event of this magnitude, this is kind of unfortunately what you get. And, you know, we also had instances of, you know, the wind carrying limbs from, you know, 50 feet away and putting them right on our power line. So So yeah, a couple of those. Next slide. Again, more, a lot of trees. You see our guys working in the background there, trying to get some wire up in the air. And a lot of times, we get out there and kind of see in that picture on the right, we get out there and there's so many trees and debris in the way, we have to, get a tree crew out there just to clear that off before we can get our line crews in there to start making repairs. So that's another reason why sometimes these outages take, so long to get taken care of, is we just have so much cleanup before we can even really get started fixing the electrical infrastructure. Next slide. This is a pretty interesting one. This huge tree came out of the ground with the roots and it took a vehicle with it. You see the guys there in the back working. That's actually the McPherson crew, I believe, that came in from mutual aid, trying to get some lights on. But like I said, just some really incredible damage. A lot of tree stuff that was just took a lot of time to work through, and that was really what we were dealing with during the outage. So, and that's pretty much the end of my presentation. I covered everything. Is there any questions or anything else I can speak to? Yes.
Thank you for that. That's incredibly helpful. I know when I was getting questions from folks, a lot were kind of what you referenced with the prioritization of service,
Yeah.
and I saw a truck drive by. But do we track any metrics like, storm like these? We know Evergy got hit. Do we do any comparisons to? And I know, we may get hit harder than them, even if it's a storm in the metro area. But is there any data like that?
So the industry standards are called SAIDI, SAIFI, and CAIDI, System Average Interruption Duration and System Average Interruption Frequency Index. And so we calculate those and we track those. But kind of doing that by the standard, when you have we call them major event days like this, we don't really include those numbers. Which it maybe seems a little disingenuous, but the point of the SAIDI SAIFI is to see how well our system performs normally, how our reliability is when you have, kind of some huge storm like this or some out of the ordinary weather event. The industry standard is we don't count those because it doesn't necessarily tell us anything about where we should be focusing our maintenance and how we're doing normally. So kind of yes and no. We do.
Sure.
There are industry standards, but typically in storms, those don't apply. You don't count, a huge storm or weather event like this in those numbers. Right. Yeah, that's the IEEE standard has those specifications for what counts as a major event day, and then those are excluded from the calculations. Is the IEEE industry standard.
Thank you. And also, for what it's worth, just looking at the, map on BPU's website and pulling up the Evergy one, it looked like we were, right in line with them, kind of same rate of completing, narrowing down, percentage that we're still without power. But that's helpful. And I'll definitely cite in the future too, that, sort of the flow chart of priority, and remind folks that just because they saw a truck in their neighborhood and power didn't come on the next hour didn't mean that, they were passed over.
And like I said, and we've got guys going out ahead, so you might see small trucks or cars coming through and assessing damage, and so there's always gonna be a lot of activity, a lot of people driving around, and it's difficult to really predict what people want to know when the lights are going to come back on. But Nick and I have met, and we talked about some enhancements on communicating some more information, some new channels and stuff. So Nick's working on some great stuff, and hopefully we can kind of come up and report that, when we get some of these other things kind of lined out, and try to improve our communication during outages and get some more information out to people.
The other thing I was curious about is, when you're bringing in outside crews, whether it's the mutual aid or Capital Electric, how does that flush out when you've got another utility right next to you trying to do the same thing? Are there, priorities in each of those contracts, or do they split up who's going where and try and provide some to everyone?
It's again with Capital, we have so many crews that are typically working here every day doing capital improvement projects, and so we kind of have first dibs on those. Once you start pulling from out area, I know last time we pulled crews from Arkansas, there wasn't a need for that, but it is always tight. But when you're talking contractors, it's kind of a first come, first serve. But the KMU, the Kansas Municipal Utilities, that's only municipal. So Evergy doesn't participate in that. They have other, IOU based agreements, but when we're pulling those utility crews, you know, they're only gonna be coming here or another municipal utility.
Okay, last one, then I promise I'm turning off my mic. You mentioned the FEMA reimbursement. How much of the cost for a storm like that do they reimburse us?
It's, I think it's almost 100%, isn't it? What is the percentage? I don't recall. 85? 85%.
So they kind of a little bit about how that process works. So the state will, somebody in the state comes through and they look at the various counties and where all the damage are, right? And so usually between BPU and Public Works, they'll set the Wyandotte County number has to hit X. So once we know, we're pretty much have an idea what that number is, and we can quickly pull together our costs using the tools that they have. We see we're gonna get there, we qualify for that claim, then starts all the work. 85% is the number you can recover. But in that, we also get to include our, what they call DAC, direct administrative costs, which is all of the team's time to organize, pull together the data, work on that submittal project and get it, submitted to FEMA. It usually takes 9 months-ish. And then I think it's about like 18 months before we ever get a check. So, but we get,
Thank you. Thanks, Aaron.
I just wanted to commend you guys for the great work that you did with the storm, last storm. I was looking at the numbers as well, you know, and I saw that, you know, there were some outages that you guys worked very quickly to resolve, and we're very appreciative of the work that you guys do. And to hear that no safety concerns, that's awesome. So thank you for your great work.
Yeah, no, the team at the service center did a fantastic job during it. They really did, so.
Yes, sir.
Anybody, can I? So sort of piggybacking on what a couple of the other board members said, you know, a couple of things that really struck me for this presentation. One, the map overlay that the GIS people have done, that's amazing.
Yeah.
And I'm sure it's something you guys see every day, but that's nothing I've ever seen. And that is amazing. And to be able to pinpoint that, I'm sure it actually, you know, really helps with the FEMA reimbursement, like you said. But, you know, the other thing is when you list out all the departments that are involved, right? And, you know, we all, when I sit there and look at that, all I could think of was, you know, those are people, those are our neighbors in this community who work tirelessly on behalf of this utility to restore their neighbors' power. And I think sometimes that, you know, we're short-sighted as residents of KCK, and we don't think about that enough. Because none of those people have a second thought about going and doing their job. And I certainly sincerely appreciate it. I know this board appreciates it. And I'm confident the community appreciates it, but you know, having a municipal utility, you know, it's all kind of really tight knit. And the fact that all of those departments work together, and I'm sure it's seamless at this point because this is, you guys have done this a million times, but you know, under your leadership and you know, be proud of that because, you know, and Jaren's leadership, and be proud of that because you guys have done a wonderful job. And I will say, I'm glad that you pointed out that, you know, you've been meeting with Nick and talking about some of this stuff because I pointed out during the storm restoration to Bill, to please pass along to Nick. I personally have not seen that type of real-time communication out of BPU during a storm restoration effort. And Nick, you're to be commended. You really did a really nice job. And I think that does nothing but hopefully instill confidence in, you know, our customers that, you know, all of these folks are out there on the job, whether you see them on the street or whether, you know, they're back at the service center or where, you know, they're, you know, the ops center, doesn't matter. They're all working together to try to get that power back on. So it was an incredible team effort. And I just want to, you know, thank you for spearheading it.
Sure, I don't take any credit.
I know you don't.
Staff did a phenomenal job. I'm very proud of them. And like I said, the collaboration, the way everybody works together, and it's always really great. So, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Darren. Jeremy? Next, I'll ask Lori to come back up. She has a resolution for a low-income rebate program.
So we talked about it last meeting of bringing forth, the previous resolution had, set to expire at the end of June. So, resolution 5301, which I believe was in your packet, is to establish, the period from July 1 of 2024 to June 30th of 2025. And so, we're still piggybanking off of the Unified Government's rebate program that they did. They also are doing the pilot reduction piece of that with those same customers. So this would give a $5 credit a month rebate on an electric customer only, and then a $2.50 a month on water only. We didn't have water only last year because Unified Government's program did not go out to Edwardsville. And we only have 4 this year, but, and so if somebody has both, we would do $7 a month rebate back. Any questions?
Yes, this program was implemented when first initially?
It was September of 23 when we got it implemented, but we did, I think, 2 months of, so we started really in July last year. It was really September before we got it implemented, but we did 2 months of back, applying the rebate back.
And this is just one of the many programs we do for low-income individuals. Okay, thank you.
Lori, for those that are listening, this is to extend it until what date?
July, or June 30th of 2025.
This is Rose. I move to approve resolution number 5301.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve resolution number 5301. Roll call, please.
Roll call, Gonzalez,
Aye.
Groneman,
Aye.
Haley,
Aye.
Wakes,
Aye.
Mulvaney Henry,
Aye.
Parker.
Aye.
That motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, Laurie. Thank you, board. Certainly goes to help our community along with many of the other things we're doing as a municipal utility. Final miscellaneous comments. I've got 2. Tom, I guess I'll first point out that the upcoming holiday.
I had that written
Okay.
down too, but go ahead.
Okay. So, if you want me to wait, I can wait.
I was just gonna bring it up at the beginning of the board comments, but why don't we go ahead and do it now?
Okay. So on the next board meeting is scheduled for the 19th, which is Juneteenth date. And that's a national holiday. We will not be open on that day. So I guess I would ask the board to consider moving it to June 18th, unless there's some availability issues with some of the board members.
This is David. Regrettably, I've been asked to be in Topeka that day unexpectedly, having a special session. I can participate, if I can participate in, as I have by Zoom, I'd be perfectly fine. I don't want to stand in the way of that. I'm concerned about how extensive the agenda might be, especially along the line of some considerations of personnel. But beyond that, if I can participate by Zoom, I'd appreciate it. I think I'll be there all day in Topeka.
I have no issues with it.
I can make that work.
Anybody have any conflicts? Okay. Do we need to make a motion and to change the date, or do we just
Oh, I mean, that would probably be best practice.
Can I have a motion that we change the second meeting date of June from June the 19th to June the 18th?
This is Rose, so moved.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we will change the meeting date for the second meeting in June from June 19th to June 18th. Okay, roll call, please.
Roll call, Gonzalez,
Aye.
Groneman,
Aye.
Haley,
Aye.
Wakes,
Aye.
Mulvaney Henry,
Aye.
Parker.
Aye.
That motion carries.
All right, next item I have is, since the board changed that date to June 18th, on June 17th, the one day before, Brett Parker will be celebrating a birthday. So happy birthday, Brett.
Thank you.
Okay, all right.
And, Mr. President, that's all I have.
Do we have any public comments on the agenda items? Anybody present that wants to comment on the agenda items that we had this evening? No. Okay, then we'll go on to board comments. Mary?
I'd just like to thank you for the presentation and everybody that was involved with the storm restoration, and I didn't lose my power, so I feel really lucky.
Rose?
I don't think I have any comments tonight, Mr. President. Thank you.
Brett?
I'd just echo Mary's comments. Appreciate the presentations from staff and the great work of the storm response teams. It was nice being able to, also just getting the updates on how things were going, but being able to respond to constituents with confidence that things are being handled and as fast and as safely as possible.
Stevie?
Ditto.
David?
Yes, to thank everyone for the presentations tonight. Did watch the storm. It was largely in an area where I live, some of the businesses that were affected there, and do appreciate the thoroughness of understanding it better, and also to proactively wish our member Brett a happy birthday ahead of time. We'll have a stale cookie the day after or something on your birthday. That's all I have. Thank you, Mr. President.
And I'll just echo everybody else's comments on the presentations, and it's always makes you proud to see the work that the BPU employees put out for the community. So other than that, Brett, happy birthday, and we'll go into executive session if we can get a motion from Angela.
All right. And how long do you want a break? And if so, how long? I'm being told 5.
5.
Okay. The motion for adoption is as follows. I move that after taking a 5-minute break, the board go into executive session for 20 minutes to discuss confidential matters related to security systems so as not to justify the integrity of the security practices and procedures intended to protect the information system of a public body or agency, as justified under the security measures exception in the Kansas Open Meetings Act, and that Bill Johnson, General Manager, Jeremy Ash, Chief Operating Officer, Angela Lawson, Acting Chief Counsel, Darren McNew, Executive Director of Electric Operations, Donald Stahl, Executive Director of Electric Production, and Andrew Kofelt, NERC Compliance Officer, be present to participate in the discussion. All others to be dismissed from the room, and electronic and telephonic transmissions to cease, and that we reconvene in open session,
7:28.
returning to both electronic and telephonic broadcasting at 7:28 to either take action in an open session or to adjourn. Thank you.
Angie, I'm really hoping a so moved will suffice here.
Well.
All right, so moved.
You have to repeat that.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to move into executive session. Roll call, please.
Roll call, Gonzalez, Groneman,
Aye.
Haley,
Aye.
Wakes,
Aye.
Mulvaney Henry.
Aye.
Parker.
Aye.
That motion.
All right.
Do what?
I move to adjourn.
Wait a second, the senator has a comment that he'd like to make.
Thank you, Mr. President. I meant to mention, since next meeting's coming up, I had requested that we look at what we're doing with the dormant plants. Remember, there was gonna be an update on that, hopefully now, and of course, I don't want to kick the can another month. But if we could, either next meeting, see where we are with those, with the call and the Quindaro plants where they are, I'd appreciate that. Just wanted to renew that interest. Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you for, your forbearing on that.
So we can provide an update. The RFPs have not officially been all closed. We are asking for follow-up from a couple of the bidders, so we'll bring that information back.
Next meeting, if we
Yeah,
can, next
we'll-
meeting on the 18th.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you. Thank you for your forbearance, Mr. President.
Okay, we
Members.
have a motion.
We do?
Second.
Second.
Who was the second? I'm sorry.
Brett.
Okay.
Roll call, please.
Roll call. Gonzalez, Groneman,
Aye.
Haley,
Aye.
Wakes.
Aye.
Mulvaney Henry,
Aye.
Parker.
Aye.
That motion carries. This meeting is adjourned.